Welcome. We're joining now for some rolling and live coverage regarding the escalating situation in the occupied Palestinian territories and the Strip. We're joined by Rabbi Dovid Feldman from the he's a spokesman at the Nutre Carter International from New York, and Ken Stone at the Hamilton Coalition to Stop the War. Rabbi, welcome. Firstly, if I can start with you and have your thoughts on what we're seeing since the beginning of the holy Muslim month of Ramadan. Israel has been attacking Palestinian worshippers at the Aqsa mosque, its compound, and recently inside the mosque itself, Islam's third holiest site, injuring scores on some days. Recently, today, injuring 400, the latest tally, the latest attack as we speak. Forces are attacking Palestinians as well as killing Palestinians by airstrikes and other means in the besieged Gaza Strip.
Well, unfortunately, this is very sad when we see all of this going on, especially as you mentioned in the last couple of weeks. This is tragic. Unfortunately, what is happening is we have a conflict which is going on already for decades, and it's just being fueled by this provocations constantly going on. This settler movement, sadly and embarrassingly enough, people who look like religious Jewish people, and they do everything which is anti-religious. And unfortunately, this whole provocation, this settler provocation against the Arab neighbors, the Palestinian neighbors, is totally ridiculous and anti-religious, is anti-Jewish. And unfortunately, people just see this antagonism, this violence going on. Unfortunately, what happens at the end of the day is action causes a reaction. Nobody condones, nobody condemns, but this is unfortunately what is happening. And unfortunately, we are standing here right now as we speak. And as we all know, we follow the news, this sad happening on the Temple Mount in Al-Aqsa. This is not supposed to happen. Jewish people lived in peace with the Palestinians for so long before all of this started. And beginning is wrong. This occupation from the very beginning is unjust and is anti-religious, is anti-Jewish. Unless we realize this, then unfortunately we are not getting any place.
Ken, what do you make of we got the U.S. Secretary of State who's saying that rocket attacks on Israel, he's slamming them, that they should stop now. These rocket attacks, they haven't caused a single casualty in Israel, not one Israeli casualty, yet over the past few hours we've seen from Israeli airstrikes in the besieged Gaza Strip have killed at least 20 Palestinians, including 9 children. Nothing from the US Secretary of State on that.
Well, thank you for inviting me onto this panel. I believe that the Palestinian people are subject to an illegal occupation. It has been deemed illegal by numerous resolutions of the UN and the UN Security Council. And under international law, people who live under illegal occupation have the right to resist in any manner necessary their illegal occupation. So if the people in Gaza are resisting and showing their opposition to Israeli attacks on the Al-Aqsa Mosque and resisting the ethnic cleansing of the neighborhood of Sheikh Jarrah in East Jerusalem, then, in my opinion, they are fully justified. And people in Canada are very interested in this. As we speak, there is a demonstration going on in Toronto in front of the in front of the Israeli consulate, and this was organized by Palestine House. And on the weekend, we focused our entire Al-Quds Day event on these recent attacks on the Palestinians in the occupied territories and in Israel proper, and we called it United Against Apartheid. So, in my opinion, the moves people of Gaza and the people in East Jerusalem to resist the illegal occupation are fully justified.
All right, just before I get back to Rabbi Dovid, Ken, we've also international headlines have sprung up today regarding the situation in the occupied territories, and especially in Jerusalem, Al-Quds, where Israeli forces, for weeks now, for 4 weeks since the beginning of Ramadan, the fasting month for the Muslims, Israeli regime forces have been attacking in quite a cruel and harsh way on Palestinians, and that hasn't picked up any news, hasn't been picked up by the media, but today it has been, because the Palestinians are somewhat responding. So what do you make of the media role in this?
The media role has been shameful as always. The mainstream media in the West echoes the government's position, all the Western governments, and all these governments serve a purpose. That is to say, they enable the continuing illegal occupation of the West Bank and Gaza. The Western governments have the back of the Israeli state when they bomb Syria, when they bomb Lebanon. So it's truly shameful that the mainstream media is so controlled that they echo these positions, and they don't share what is really going on, the tragedy that the Palestinian people faced. And the Palestinian people have resisted this illegal occupation in many ways for the last 70 years. And the way that they've been resisting most recently is against the Judaization of East Jerusalem, which is being attempted by the Israeli government in violation of international law and in the Geneva Convention, to which Canada is a high consenting party, but shows little concern. The Minister of Foreign Affairs yesterday issued a statement saying that he was concerned about what was going on in East Jerusalem and concerning the Al-Aqsa Mosque and the home demolitions. But people like me in the anti-war movement and in the Palestine Solidarity movement here in Canada are not satisfied that he is showing concern. He could have shown concern, or the Canadian government should have shown and did show its concern decades ago about the illegal occupation, the home demolitions, the attacks on the mosque. But now's the time not for concern anymore, but for action. When is the international community going to take action to censure Israel? And in my opinion, it doesn't require that the United Nations Security Council is united on applying economic sanctions to Israel the way they did to apartheid South Africa. There are many things that the countries in the West could do to censure Israel and to bring it to heel. For example, in Canada, the Canadian government could end the charitable status of the Jewish National Fund, which finances these settlements, these illegal Jewish settlements on the West Bank. It could also end the security arrangement with Israel. It could end the free trade arrangement with Israel. Any one of those would help to bring, and the European Union, well, that easily could bring Israel to heel simply by suspending or even questioning Israel's special relationship to the EU. That special relationship guarantees the Israeli economy almost a partnership in the EU, almost EU status. And if it were to be withdrawn from the state of Israel, the Israeli economy would tank within days. So there are many things that Western governments could do if they wanted to to bring Israel to heel and to make it observe international law. But our governments are run by people who are apologists for the Israeli government, and they see Israel as a tool in the Middle East, as a beachhead in the oil-rich Middle East, to keep the Arab nations in line. And that has been Israel's historic role, and that's why Western governments support it. And it's shameful, and Canadians are fed up with this, I can tell you. In many opinion polls recently, Canadians have shown that they are upset with the way that apartheid Israel mistreats its Palestinian citizens. And Canadians are ready for our government to take action and not just show concern. This is what action is what is needed now, not words.
Rabbi Dovid, the Palestinians living in Jerusalem, they're living under Israeli military occupation, not just a normal, a military occupation, a very severe and harsh occupation that prevents them from their basic human rights, including the right to practice their religion, to worship at a holy site, Islam's third holiest site. They've been cracking down on them, injuring them, killing them, for just trying to worship, to pray at the peacefully as well, at the Aqsa mosque. On the other hand, you've got Israeli settlers that are there said anything. It's Israel's staunchest ally. What do you make of all this?
Well, this is very sad. But I need to clarify when you're mentioning about the settlers, which is unfortunately now the main news today. What's going on? I would like to quote for you a part of a statement that was issued 2 weeks ago by the anti-Zionist Rabbinate of Jerusalem, the Aida Chareidis, representing 100,000 Jews in the Holy Land, in a condemnation to the settler movement recently in their provocations against the Arabs. And this is very important to mention because mainstream media will ignore this, as mentioned before. Unfortunately, we are in our day and age. If we wouldn't have Press TV or other honest channels, we would never know what's going on. True facts. And I'm quoting this statement. We protest and condemn those extremist Zionists from the Lahava organization who marched against Palestinian communities here in Jerusalem with murderous cries of death to Arabs. We are doubly pained by the desecration of God's name when those activities are done by and conducted with, connected with religious Jews, end quote. This is the opinion of the anti-Zionist Jewish community in the Holy Land. We are talking about over 100,000 people, and there are way more than these who are not officially with this anti-Zionist rabbinate. We have masses of Jewish people worldwide who are outraged to what we are witnessing today, outraged to what we are witnessing for the last 73 years, outraged on all these pro-Zionist provocations against the Palestinian people from day one to the present day, and are so hurt and so embarrassed when all of this is supposedly being done in the name of the state of Israel, supposedly the Jewish people. And sadly, when these settlers, or at least some of them, dress as religious Jews, and people think and believe that this is the religious Jewish approach. And this is totally wrong. We are outraged about what is happening. We are outraged when this is being done, as the statement mentioned, outraged when this is being done supposedly in our name. It's everything that it takes we would do to silence, to stop this provocation against the Palestinian people. What we are promoting, and we do this all the time, we do this already for decades, and we do this right now. Tomorrow we're going to join the demonstration in Washington, D.C. regarding all what is happening in these days. And this is something that we would not stop. Clarifying to the world that, number one, this is wrong. Number two, this is not Jewish. This is not human. This is not just. This has to stop. We have to have the world wake up to what is happening, reality, to understand that this is not only a disaster for Palestine. This is a disaster for the Jewish people as well. And this is a disaster for humanity. And this is an embarrassment to humanity when we all sit back and we witness what's going on. And so far, we didn't manage to stop this. Let me just add that as Jewish people, we feel the pain of the Palestinian people. We are Jewish people suffering from the Zionist regime as well, especially our people in the Holy Land, who are being oppressed all these years, all these decades from the Zionist regime. They would deny our existence as they deny the existence of Palestine. They would do everything they can to uproot our identity, uproot our religion, our communities, unless we follow them and unless we no longer continue to be committed to our religion. It's the Zionist leaders in the very beginning who had one of their strongest elements in their movement was the concept of uprooting Jewish practice, transforming Judaism from a religion into a nationalism. This is the only way
Right. As we speak, Palestinians are under severe attack and a harsh crackdown by Israeli regime forces in Jerusalem, Al-Quds. Just picking up from where you left off, Rabbi Dovid, many analysts, and we know now that not we've seen Jewish people on anti-Israeli demonstrations on International Quds Day. We've seen Jewish people on other demonstrations against the Israeli atrocities against the Palestinians. And we know that not all Jewish people are Zionists, and not all Zionists are Jewish people. Do you want to just expand on that very, very quickly?
Yes, you said it very right. Not all Jews are Zionists. It's even more than that. Judaism does not allow Zionism. The Jewish religion, traditional Judaism, that was practiced and followed for thousands of years is in total contradiction to what Zionism is, beginning from the actual concept of building a sovereign homeland for Jews, which is totally forbidden according to Judaism. One of the basics of Jewish belief is that Jews are in exile. We are forbidden to create a state of our own. Killing, stealing, oppressing an entire people, all of this is not only a violation of international law, this is a violation of Jewish law. Now, all of this is totally wrong. This is the great difference between Judaism and Zionism. Judaism is a religion. The Jewish people are the people who follow the Jewish religion, versus Zionism, a political movement, which is not only dropping religion, but violating everything in Judaism, including the killing and stealing and abusing and all of this.
Let me just very quickly get back to Ken. Ken, it's not the first time Israel has, over the past years, we've seen Israel raiding the Al-Aqsa mosque compound, but not today. Over the scenes that we've seen today and yesterday and over the last few weeks, it's been unprecedented. Has Israel crossed a red line, in your opinion?
First of all, I'd like to applaud the remarks of the good rabbi from the Natura Cartae, and I agree with what he's saying. The Israeli government has been doing these provocations against the Palestinian people for more than 70 years, even before the Nakba and the establishment of the Israeli state. And I'm not sure if they have crossed a red line this week, the mosque, but the rabbi is right to say that Jews and Arabs lived together in peace in Jerusalem for hundreds of years under Ottoman rule. It was only when the Zionist movement, the Zionist colonial movement started, that the Zionists sought to racialize, dehumanize, and to ethnically cleanse the Palestinians. It's been going on for a century, and it's time that it stopped. And it's time that countries around the world took action on our own behalf For example, if the United States wanted this to end, they could remove the subsidy, the huge several billion dollar subsidy of Israel it gives every year, plus all the arms it gives to the state of Israel every year. It could bring the Israeli government to heel in a matter of a week or two. And the same goes for Canada and the EU. So the point here is that people around the world, Jews and non-Jews, have to get together and put pressure on their governments to take, not to show concern, but to take action and to censure the state of Israel. Make it pay, make it hurt, make it suffer, so that it starts. It gives up on attacking the Al-Aqsa Mosque. It gives up on Judaizing East Jerusalem. It lets the people, the Arab residents of East Jerusalem, stay in their homes. Illegal things that are doing, it needs to stop them all.
Right. Okay, gentlemen, thank you very much indeed for your time and joining us on this special coverage regarding Israel's deadly, brutal crackdown on the Palestinians and the occupied West Bank, and the deadly airstrikes that have killed at least 20 Palestinians, including 9 children, in the besiege of the Gaza Strip. Let me thank our guest, Rabbi Dovid Feldman, a spokesman at the Neutral Carter International, joining us from New York, and Ken Stone, Hamilton Coalition to Stop the War, joining us from Hamilton. Dear viewers, thank you for staying tuned.